The smell of pepper soup filled the air as Ada stirred the pot outside her small food stand. The sun was hot, sweat rolled down her face, but she kept watching the boy across the road, Connell. He was skinny and full of big dreams. He sat on a wooden stool with a book on his lap, his lips moving as he read. Ada smiled each time he looked up and waved. Her food stand didn't make much money, but she had enough to keep going, and she believed things would get better. Ada was an orphan, she lived alone and worked hard every day. She got up early, pounded yam, made soups, and carried food bowls around the neighborhood. Connell wanted to be an engineer, and she believed he could do it. She gave him free food, encouraged him to study, and hoped that one day, all her efforts would be worth it. She didn't expect anything back. Helping him was her way of showing love. Their talks were quiet and simple. Connell often spoke about leaving town, about big cities with tall buildings and clean offices. Ada listened, smiling. One day, when she handed him a bowl of soup, their hands touched. It was quick, but something changed. That evening, he walked her home. They stood under the mango tree outside her house, and he kissed her. After that kiss, things between them grew stronger. They didn't say much, but they felt close. Ada still worked hard every day, supporting Connell with money for his school and feeding them both. After a few years of being with Connell, Ada noticed one day that she was feeling strange. She was more tired than usual. Her back ached, and she felt sick in the mornings. At first, she thought it was from working too hard. But when she missed her period and her body started to change, she knew the truth. She was pregnant. She sat on the floor of her small room, holding her belly, afraid and unsure what to do. Connell noticed the change in her. He asked if she was okay, and she nodded, not ready to tell him. She didn't want to distract him. He had just gotten news that made his eyes shine bright, a scholarship offer to study abroad. It was everything he had hoped for. She didn't want to ruin that. So she kept her secret, smiling when he talked about his dreams. When she finally told him, it was 2 days before his flight. They sat on a bench outside her house. She held his hand and said, "Connell, I'm pregnant." His face went still. He looked at her belly, then back at her. "Ada, I didn't expect this. But I'm not going to run away. I'll go, yes. But I'll come back. I promise. I'll make something of myself and come back for you." And the baby, tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. "Okay. Just don't forget us." "Never," he said, kissing her forehead. "You believed in me when no one else did. I won't let you down." 2 days later, Ada stood by the road as the taxi drove off. Holding her belly, after standing for a while she turned back, walked home, and began her new life, alone, but still holding on to his promise. The night Ada went into labor, the rain came down hard. Thunder rolled across the sky like drums. She was alone in her small room, holding her stomach and breathing hard. The pain came in waves, sharp and deep. She had no one to call, no one to hold her hand. Sweat poured from her forehead as she cried out, clutching the edge of the bed. A kind neighbor, Omalicha, heard her screams and rushed in with warm water and cloths. "You're strong," she said, holding Ada's hand tightly. "Just breathe. We'll get through this." By midnight, the first baby arrived. A tiny boy with strong lungs and a loud cry. 10 minutes later, a second cry filled the room, a girl. Twins. Ada couldn't believe it. She stared at the 2 small faces wrapped in white cloth and cried, not from pain, but from something deeper, fear and joy mixed together. She wondered how she was going to take care of 2 humans all alone. Omalicha helped clean up and lay them beside her. "You did well, Ada. God will help you." But Ada couldn't stop the thoughts in her mind. Connell had promised to come back. But he hadn't written, hadn't called. Months had passed since he left. She had no way of reaching him. Now, with 2 mouths to feed, everything felt heavier. In the morning, she named them. The boy, she called Chimdi, meaning I have a god. The girl, she named Chisholm, God is with me. She whispered the names as she fed them from her breast. Her arms tired but full, the next weeks were hard. The babies cried through the night. She barely slept. Her small savings finished quickly. She tied the twins to her back, one at a time, and went back to the food stand. She cooked with one hand and rocked a baby with the other. Some days she sold enough to eat. Some days, she went to bed hungry, still, she didn't complain. Each time she looked at her babies, her heart grew strong again. I will not break, she said to herself. Even if Kunal never comes back, I will stand. 3 years passed. The twins grew fast. Chimdi loved to climb things, and Chisholm liked to hum while playing with pebbles. Ada watched them with tired eyes but a full heart. They didn't know who their father was. They only knew their mother, strong, always moving, always working. Ada's food stand became her second home. Each morning, she tied the twins to her back one after the other, balanced a large pot of soup on her head, and walked to the busy junction near the bus park. That was where workers, drivers, and traders came for food. Her jollof rice was spicy and full of flavor. Her okra soup, thick and hot. People started asking for her by name. Mama twins, bring that stew again. They'd say. But success didn't come easy. One afternoon, while she served a line of hungry customers, she smelled smoke. Her heart stopped. She turned and saw flames leaping from the back of her small wooden stall. Someone had dropped a burning stick too close. The fire spread fast, people tried to help, throwing water, shouting. But by the time the fire died down, her food stand was gone, burnt to the ground. The pot, the plates, the money she had saved in a jar. All gone. She stood in the ash and smoke, her babies clinging to her legs, and for the first time in years, she wanted to give up. God, is this how it ends? She whispered. That night, she didn't cook. They ate soaked gari and slept on an empty stomach. But the next morning, she had consoled herself. She got up, washed her face, tied a scarf around her head, and went to the market. She borrowed a little money from Mama Chinyere and bought just enough to start again, one small pot, one bag of rice, and a few spoons. I don't need a big stand, she said. I just need fire, salt, and a little hope. She cooked from a borrowed table that day. Just one meal, but it sold out. Little by little, she began again. Life had been good to Kunal. He had a sleek car, a fine house in Lekki, and a wife with polished nails and a calm voice. Business had smiled on him, contracts came in like water, and his name now carried weight. When he walked into restaurants, people stood to greet him, but even with all that, his home was quiet, too quiet. The laughter of a child was missing. The sound of little feet running down the hallway. The smell of baby powder. The warmth of tiny arms wrapping around his neck. None of it lived in his house. Tonia, his wife, had tried everything, tests, prayers, fasting. Still, no child came. The doctors said Kunal's chances were slim. Very low motility, they said. But he barely heard them. His mind had already gone elsewhere, back to a day he had buried deep. Ada. Her small food stall. The way she had pulled him close that afternoon, her hand trembling as she placed it on his chest. I'm pregnant, she had whispered, and in that moment, everything inside him shook. Not with joy, but fear. He had smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, it will be fine. But inside, he wasn't fine. He was 26, jobless, with a scholarship letter in one hand and the weight of fatherhood in the other. He chose the coward way out. He didn't say goodbye properly. He told her he would call when he landed. He never did. The messages she sent sat unread for months until they stopped coming. He watched them pile up, too ashamed to reply, too afraid to return. I'll go back when I've made it, he told himself, but once the money came, guilt came with it. And still, he did nothing, now, years later, with a wife who wept into pillows and no child to hold, the past came knocking like thunder. He sat in the living room one night, staring at the ceiling, and whispered, "What if? What if I already have a child?" He thought of Ada, the young girl he left behind, who had to face it all alone. Ada wiped sweat from her brow as she stirred a large pot of jollof rice. The smell of pepper and tomatoes filled the air. Her food stall had grown. What started with one small table now had 4 benches, 3 helpers, and steady customers. People came from different parts of town to eat her food. Some called her Madam Kitchen. But none of it had come easy. She still remembered the first night she realized Connell wasn't coming back. She had waited weeks for a message, a call, even a simple "How are you?" But her phone stayed silent. At first, she told herself he was busy. Then, maybe his phone was bad. But deep down, her heart knew the truth: he had left her. And he wasn't coming back. She cried for days. Not just for herself, but for the 2 small lives growing inside her. The day she found out she was carrying twins, she sat on her bed in shock. Then she laughed, a tired, bitter laugh. "Connell," she whispered, "you really ran from double blessings." She begged God for strength. And then she stood up and went to work. The early years were hard. Feeding 2 babies with nothing but her hands and borrowed money. She cooked, cleaned, sold food under the sun with a wrapper tied around her waist and a baby on her back. There were nights the twins cried, and she cried with them. Nights when there was only pap to drink and no light to warm the room, but she didn't give up. The twins, a boy and a girl, were her world. They had Connell's eyes, his smile. She hated that sometimes she saw him in them. But she loved them deeply. Now, they were 6. Clever. Bright. Always asking questions. "Mummy, who is our daddy?" Chimdi asked once, wide-eyed and innocent. Ada had frozen, a spoon mid-air. "He traveled," she said quietly. "A long time ago." She didn't say he ran. She didn't say he was scared. She didn't say he forgot them. She simply got up, wiped her hands, and went back to work. Her food stall kept her going. It gave her something to hold on to when the past tried to creep in. But one morning, as she packed rice into takeaway bowls, a black car parked near her stall. A man stepped out, tall. Neat. Familiar. Her heart stopped. Connell. Connell's footsteps faltered as he approached the crowded food stall. The smell of stew and fried plantain hit him, stirring memories he tried to bury. There she was, Ada, standing tall, worn but unbroken. His heart twisted, but his voice stayed steady. "Ada." She spun around, eyes blazing. She stared as him, a look of unbelief written all over her face. "Connell. So, you finally decided to show your face after all these years?" She asked, her voice filled with bitterness. He swallowed hard. "Ada, I know I'm the last person you want to see right now, but I came back. I want to see our child. I want to be part of his or her life." Her laugh was bitter, sharp enough to cut. "Our child. You left me alone with 2 babies. Connell. Twins. Did you even know that?" The words hit him like a slap. He shook his head, unable to speak. "I carried those 2 inside me, alone. I battled through every sleepless night, every hungry day, every tear, and you ran away like a coward the moment I told you I was pregnant." Her voice cracked but her eyes stayed fierce. "Do you think I wanted this? To do this alone? You abandoned us. No calls, no money, no letters. Nothing." Connell's throat tightened. "I was scared. I didn't know what to do." "Scared?" Ada's eyes burned with anger. "Well, I wasn't. I kept going. I built this," she gestured to the bustling stall, "so my children wouldn't have to know what it means to go without." She stepped closer, voice low but unyielding. Now you come back from God knows where demanding to be part of their life. It doesn't work that way, Cunnel. You can't just walk in her and ask for anything, you have no right whatsoever." With that, Ada turned away, leaving him standing there, an outsider to the family he helped create but abandoned. Ada didn't wait for Cunnel to follow her. She turned back to her stall, wiping her hands on her worn apron. The customers were still there, hungry, eager, trusting. That was her life now. Her children, her food business, her survival. Her heart still pounded from the shock of Cunnel's return. She hadn't expected to see him again, not like this, not after so many years. The anger still burned in her chest, hotter than the cooking fire. How could he just walk back in, acting like nothing had happened? She thought about the nights she stayed up, rocking the twins, whispering promises they wouldn't understand yet. Promises that no matter what, she'd protect them. That she'd make sure they had a future. The stall had started as a small dream, just a pot of stew, a plate, and a hope. But now it was more. People lined up every day for her jollof rice, her pepper soup, her fried plantain. She had grown it from nothing, fueled by love and hard work, yet, no matter how strong she was, the pain of Cunnel's absence stayed with her. Raising twins alone wasn't easy. School fees, doctor visits, endless errands, she did it all by herself. There were days she cried alone in her tiny room, missing the man who had promised to come back and never did. Now, he was here, wanting to be a father, wanting to make amends. But Ada wasn't ready. She wanted him to go as far away as possible. She glanced toward Chimdi and Chisholm playing nearby, laughing and chasing each other. The children didn't know what to make of the stranger standing by the stall. Ada decided it would stay that way. For now. Ada took a deep breath, then went back to serving her customers, steady, strong, unbreakable. Cunnel kept coming around, but Ada's walls stayed up. She didn't want him near the twins. Every time he tried to speak with Chimdi or Chisholm, Ada stepped in, firm and unyielding. "You can't just show up and expect to be part of their lives," she told him once, voice sharp like a whip. "You ran away. You left me to raise 2 children alone. What makes you think you get to fix that?" Cunnel swallowed hard. "I know I don't deserve anything, Ada. But I want to try. Please." She shook her head. "Trying isn't enough. You missed their first steps, their first words. You missed years of birthdays, sickness, school runs. They don't even know you." Days turned into weeks. Cunnel tried, in small ways, fixing things around the stall. Quietly paying for school fees, buying things when Ada wasn't looking. But Ada never thanked him. Never smiled, her eyes stayed guarded. Her heart closed. One afternoon, Cunnel watched from a distance as Ada laughed softly at the twins playing. He realized then that he was a stranger now. And some distances weren't easy to cross. Ada caught his gaze and looked away. The silent message was clear, he still had a long way to go. Cunnel stood outside the little compound where Ada lived, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows over the cracked walls. He wasn't sure how long he could keep this up, visiting without invitation, offering help she barely accepted, trying to earn a place he once abandoned. Inside, Ada was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables with practiced hands. The twins were nearby, their laughter filling the small home. She glanced toward the door but said nothing. He remembered the day he left, the fear that had frozen him, the weight of responsibility too heavy for a boy who thought running was easier than facing the truth. Now, years later, he was back. Older, richer, but still unsure if Ada would ever trust him. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Cunnel found Ada sitting outside, the twins asleep inside. He approached slowly. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said quietly. "I don't expect you to trust me yet. But I want you to know I'm here to stay this time." Ada looked at him, eyes tired but steady. "Words are easy. Actions take time." He nodded, the weight of her words settling deep inside him. For now, the bridge between them was fragile, built of cautious steps, guarded hearts, and the shared hope that maybe, just maybe, the future could hold something better, Ada didn't smile. She didn't forgive him. Not yet, but she didn't turn him away either.